Welcome back to the world of chills and suspense. Tonight, we delve into a story that will make you question the shadows in your own room, a night no one who experienced it dared to remember. Nimisha's breath came in ragged gasps. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with her hair in front of the mirror. Her reflection stared back, a pale, terrified, and utterly exhausted face. That night, for the very first time, she regretted her habit of staying up late, because something or someone was watching her. It all started years ago when Nimisha and her best friend, Manisha, were students at an elite boarding school famed for its discipline and academic prowess. But beneath the polished facade, the girls' hostel held a dark, chilling secret. 5 years prior, a bright and innocent student had died mysteriously on the 5th floor. There were no signs of a struggle, no clear motive, and no evidence left behind. The police eventually closed the case, but the whispers never truly faded. The students believed the girl's spirit still wandered the halls of that forbidden floor. Eventually, the school locked it up, opening it just once a week for cleaning. Years passed, and now Nimisha and Manisha shared a room in that very same hostel. Their routine was simple. Nimisha was the night owl, studying deep into the early hours, while Manisha, an early bird, slept soundly and hit the books at dawn. Manisha was never without her glasses or the black thread her mother had tied around her wrist for protection. They had both heard the ghost stories about the 5th floor, of course, but always laughed them off as childish tales. That is, until the night of December 10th. It was around 12:30 a.m. Nimisha was poring over her textbooks while Manisha slept peacefully. Feeling a pang of thirst, Nimisha got up and walked to the common hall to make a cup of coffee. The hostel was eerily silent. The only sound was the low hum of the coffee machine breaking the stillness. As she turned around, mug in hand, she froze. Manisha was standing right behind her. The dim light cast shadows across her face, revealing only half of it. But something felt terribly wrong. She wasn't wearing her glasses, and the black thread was missing from her wrist. "Why are you awake?" Nimisha asked, her voice shaking slightly. Manisha just smiled faintly and whispered, "Let's go to the 5th floor balcony." A cold shiver raced down Nimisha's spine. Before she could even form a reply, Manisha grabbed her hand and started pulling her towards the stairs. As they climbed, Nimisha noticed something bizarre. Only her own footsteps echoed in the silent stairwell. Manisha's feet made no sound at all. She wasn't even wearing slippers. When they reached the 5th floor, the door, which was always locked, stood wide open. A cold, unnatural wind whistled through the corridor, greeting them. They stepped inside. It was darker and colder here than anywhere else in the building. They wandered through the dark hall until they reached a particular room, the very room where the girl had died 5 years ago. Scratched onto the wall, as if with fingernails, were 2 words, the 10th of December. Nimisha's heart pounded against her ribs. Suddenly, Manisha walked towards the balcony and stood silently at the edge, staring down into the darkness below. "Manisha, come back," Nimisha pleaded. There was no response. She called her name again, more urgently this time. That's when Manisha turned around. Her eyes were completely, unnervingly white. In a deep, guttural voice that didn't belong to her, she whispered one word, "Jump." Nimisha was paralyzed with fear. Manisha kept repeating the word, each time louder and more commanding. "Jump! Jump!" Nimisha felt her body go numb, her mind go blank. It was as if she were hypnotized. She felt her feet moving against her will, stepping closer and closer to the edge, the wind whipping her hair wildly around her face. Just then, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. The sound jolted her back to her senses. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushed Manisha aside and sprinted down the stairs, a blood-curdling scream chasing her from behind. She didn't dare look back. When she finally burst into her room and slammed the door shut, she froze again. Manisha was lying peacefully on the bed, asleep, in the exact same position she had left her in. Nimisha's face turned white as a sheet. When Manisha woke up later and saw her friend's terrified state, she hugged her, but Nimisha couldn't speak a single word that night. From that day on, she never stayed up late again. But something had changed. Now, whenever Manisha sat down to study, she could feel a pair of eyes on her, and it was always Nimisha, sitting silently, just staring. When Manisha finally confronted her and asked what happened that night, Nimisha told her everything. And that's when Manisha remembered something horrifying, the date of the girl's death. 5 years ago was also December 10th. The stories they had dismissed were not just stories after all. They never spoke of the fifth floor again. But even today, they say that on every December 10th, if you happen to pass by that old hostel late at night, you can still hear a faint whisper echoing through the corridor, saying, "Jump! Thank you for joining us on this terrifying journey." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. Stay safe and see you next time.